So if I'm struggling between a few different nonprofits to donate my money and time to, give me a pitch. Why Easterseals?
That's why I think you have to come see it. I think if it's something that you tangibly can see the benefit, and just hearing that we really accommodate each family specifically. If you're someone who supports education, we have education. If you support animals, we have animals.
What's up, Sarasota? Welcome back to another great episode of the Sarasota SpeaX podcast. Today, we have our special guest, Jill Gass, VP of Easterseals of Southwest Florida. But,
Episode 104.
Episode 104, as usual. I'm Felipe Colon.
Trey Strong.
You're back to Trey Strong.
Yeah.
Brad is out today. And Jill, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
really
you for
appreciate
having
you. Let's jump right into it. Tell us about what Easterseals of Southwest Florida is and what you do in the community.
Sure. Easterseals has been around for 80 years, and we've been serving people with disabilities on the full range of things. It could be minor disabilities, it could be speech impediments, it can be everything physical, autism, the full range of services through therapy, education, life skills, and employment training.
Where does the name Easterseals come from?
So over 100 years ago, Easterseals was started in Ohio. There was a gentleman who was a Rotarian, and he had someone in his family who had a disability. And back in those days, the American Heart Association had kind of the lock on sending cards for Christmas. That was the most common time that you sent a card in the country. The second was Easter. And so at that time, there wasn't the seal on the envelope, and so you had to put like a stamp or a sticker to seal the envelope. And Easterseals was their fundraising mechanism. So it was a physical item, and then it just stuck, and that's what the name of the organization became.
It stuck, no pun intended, right?
Correct.
So,
correct. Or maybe pun intended.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
So literally that thing that you used to seal the envelope was what you sold in order to get the funding to then
Correct.
take that money and then help. Was it originally just children with disabilities?
Correct. So
Okay.
It was children aging from polio. And so this was before the American Disabilities Act. This was before any accommodations were made for people that had challenges physically and otherwise. But polio was the originator of Easterseals.
And what year was that, just to give our viewers
It's like
a
110
context?
years ago.
110 years ago.
Is polio still a thing at all, or is it completely...
In developing countries, but it's pretty much eradicated.
Okay. Cool. Did Easterseals have anything to do with that?
I'm 100% sure that they did.
Very good.
Yeah. And then there was vaccinations and different things.
So as much as we hear a lot about vaccines and infectious diseases in the news, like memories are short. We forget that diseases like polio used to run rampant through childhood populations in this country not that long ago. I mean, it may seem long ago if you're not older, right? But if you're older and you kind of remember your grandparents talking about it,
Correct.
That's not me, by the way. I'm just saying, theoretically,
Got enough grays in that beard. You might have been around to see a few polio
No,
cases.
but seriously, I mean, I think these things aren't discussed enough because it's just, memories are too short.
It would be our parents that would have been receiving those vaccines in the 50s, and they could tell you about kind of their experience. Some that might have been that sugar cube, some had like a physical shot, different things.
Sugar cube, how's that work?
It was just part of how they distributed the vaccine in schools and such.
Oh,
It
I see.
wasn't actual
It wasn't a
sugar.
shot. It was actually like a...
Different things, yeah.
No
Or
kidding.
different
See, I never heard that
delivery
before.
methods, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So that's the history behind Easterseals. Let's talk about how Easterseals has evolved to serve. We'll start big and go small. The population in the United States, and then how it helps people here locally.
Okay, so Easterseals as an organization, we are an affiliate. Easterseals Southwest Florida is an affiliate. There's 5 affiliates in the state of Florida. Our home base is in Chicago, and all the affiliates kind of serve the different communities in which they reside. So we have Easterseals Southwest Florida serves about 6 counties of service. So
Is affiliate similar to like a chapter, or what's the differentiating?
like a chain, so like there's Applebee's kind of
Okay.
all over, there'd be Easterseals. And
Okay.
so what we do is provide therapy and education in our community.
Okay.
Yep. So there's 5 of them in the state, and we, our affiliate happens to be the one that serves the lifespan. So we have our youngest client is 6 weeks old and our oldest client right now is in her mid-80s, and we are able to serve in different ways, in different needs during that, throughout their lifespan.
So that's not common that you serve people of all ages.
It is not. So like
Okay.
South Florida, they're mostly early education. So they're under 5, serving children that are not in the school system yet.
So we've had other organizations on here, like what was the one with Jamie and Bash? What was it's escaping me right now? Sertoma. That's
yeah.
right. You know, and what occurred? What we learned about that is that, you know, when you have these organizations with different chapters, you know, some of them specialize affiliates. Some of them specialize in some things. Some of them specialize in others.
So they give you kind of like the free range, or like what are you limited to? You know, like
It's mostly based on funding and need, right?
Okay.
So like all things, we happen to have a very unique model in that if there's a gap in service, we try to fill it. That's one of the big challenges that families encounter when they're living with disability within their families is those kind of landmark changes. So when a child ages out of that preschool daycare age and they go to school, there's a lot of like things that need to happen in order to make that a successful transition for someone. If we're speaking about autism or a disability, something like that, where there needs to be instructional plans created that are different, where you might have to understand your options and what your rights are as a parent, and what is available in a school and what isn't, and how you can have these supplemental programs come about. Same thing happens when they graduate high school. There's like a cliff of services, meaning there's nothing. And so Easterseals has come about to try to fill some of those gaps, and we do it very successfully in this town.
That's great. It reminds me a lot of the Haven, where I've spent some time. And you're exactly right. They said the exact same thing. You know, oftentimes when people age out of school, there's nothing. Right. And, you know, a community as affluent as we are, shame on us if we are not doing things charitably or otherwise to fill in those gaps. But I want you to get really granular and kind of tell us, oftentimes when we do these shows with these nonprofits, we start talking about the business of the nonprofit, and sometimes the actual on-the-ground, day-to-day benefit gets obscured too much. Let's talk about the mission and what that means for these families that are getting that direct aid. Let's get as granular as you can without divulging maybe names or anything like that.
Okay.
Maybe an anecdote or two.
Sure.
So people understand how important this is.
Sure. So our preschool serves about 90 children. They come to us year-round. We're open the workday, so that's really great for families who have working parents, and they're able to drop off at 7:30 and pick up at 5:30. And so if you have a 4-year-old with a disability and they are needing, say, occupational and physical therapy, a traditional model would be they would go to daycare. Mom would have to leave school or leave work, or dad, whoever, go get the child, drive them to the clinic, receive the therapy, drive back, drop the child off, then go back to work. You've missed 3 hours of work. In our model, they're able to drop the child at preschool in the morning, and our therapists are on site. And so they go into the classroom, they take the child to the therapy center that's on site, they provide that half an hour of speech therapy or occupational therapy, and then they bring them back to the classroom with their friends, and they can have lunch and go on the playground and do whatever it is that they need. So just alone in the time savings, you're able to have a working family that is able to work full-time and have that kind of normal life per se. But then also you know that your child is getting the therapies that they need every day. So if they're able to receive 90 minutes of speech therapy in a week, you know that they got it as long as they were at school. If the teachers or the therapists or any of our physicians or psychologists observe another issue that may be coming about, or parents report other challenges that they're having at the home, we're able to bring together all of those parties in the same room around a table like this one and address it. You don't have to make an appointment that's 6 months from now. You don't have to wait for the doctor then to call this person and that person and have that eval. All of it can happen in a much faster time frame, which increases outcomes. And it's exponentially more beneficial to the family. And that is a life-changing moment when they're able to address things in that short order, but also in a more holistic way. You're also able to pivot. Maybe they're trying something that doesn't work. They got to go over here and do something else. And so that happens much faster in our model than it would in a traditional case.
Right, because with some of these issues that the children are dealing with, time is of the essence, like you said, right?
Right.
You know, the more you can do in those early days, the more progress they make, that they keep with them for their lives.
Correct.
Okay, so so this is a separate school. It's not like you're mainstreaming them.
It's the preschool is just within our programming. We have 12 different programs, so we serve this preschool age. Then we also have an academy that is a K through 12 kind of model. This school is called Easterseals Academy. We have it in 2 locations. We partner with the Boys and Girls Club actually on Fruitville Road, and because it's empty during the day, we use that space for the school during the day. And that school is a very intensive kind of clinical model. Meaning that if the reason a child may not be successful in a public or private traditional setting is because they need more supports than are offered in that school. So we're able to work with those children and those families to provide that assistance to make them successful in school, so they're able to be able to learn. And they still are receiving those therapies and all of that along that day. Then after, you can stay in high school up to age 22. You can also graduate at 18 or 19, just like the rest of us. Or you can stay and receive that additional time, and then you age out into an adult program. So that's where the Haven a lot of times comes in. They do have an academy as well, but they mostly have adults that are living on site. So that's where we work together with them. We do have some clients that go to their day program and live on that site, and then vice versa. They have a lot of residential benefits, which is great. So we do work with the Haven and Loveland and provide, there's not enough services, so we all have to work together to make it successful.
That's great to hear how the different organizations kind of work together, or it seems somewhat seamlessly, the way you describe it, which is, I think, the mark of any successful community, and taking care of these folks is how well we can all work together rather than being...
Well, and resources are limited, right? So you want to be able to offer options. You know, you and I get to make decisions on where we want to go that day, and that this gives them that opportunity as well.
Before we get more into like the business, if you could call it that, of accomplishing all these things, you want to highlight some of the other individual programs, like the Malcolm Family Autism Center or the Ranch. I figured we go there now.
Sure. So I mentioned the preschool. I mentioned the academy. The Ranch is a location that is down in South County. It's in Nokomis. It's a 62-acre farm, and it has 16 therapy horses. So if you and I ever went to physical therapy after breaking a bone, you would go into a space that had fluorescent lighting and a linoleum floor or something like that, and you receive your therapy. In this case, they're able to be on horseback, and we have the therapists working with them to provide that therapy. If you've ever ridden a horse, you'll get off of it and you'll wonder why your lower back and your abs hurt. It's because a horse's gait is very similar to the way our hips and our legs walk. So if a child has limited core strength or is limited with, maybe they're in a wheelchair, they're able to feel that sensation on a horse and get that same rocking sensation, which then strengthens their core, opens their body up, gets them a whole other type of benefit. But it also provides that break from that clinical space that they're so used to, because children with disabilities are in and out of doctors' offices all the time. And this gives them that therapy outside. Therapy
that doesn't necessarily feel like therapy.
Correct.
Under the fluorescent lights, like you said.
Correct.
It more feels like a day at the park or something.
That's right. So
cool.
that location has these horses. We also do a veterans program down there called Operation One Stride. It's a free program, focuses on mental health, a lot of stress relief and different things, where the veteran is paired with a horse and works with them over a 6-week period of time.
Can you give us an idea of the size of your affiliate, like how many employees, volunteers, things of that nature?
Sure. So the ranch is wrought with volunteers. It's really important that it has volunteers because our horse staff are very expensive. So we have about 100 volunteers that help down there, taking care of the horses, working with the children when they're on the horse, etc. The organization as a whole has about 200 staff. We've grown exponentially over the last 5 years from 55 staff to about 200. Same with our budget. We're about a $20 million organization serving about 2,500 people a year.
So budget, how do you raise the money?
So the budget is kind of threefold. We do receive about a third of our funding from state agencies, which comes from Tallahassee. So when they pass the budget here, hopefully any day now, we will be part of that. That's another thing that Easterseals in Florida, all of us work together to lobby for our cause.
You used the dirty L word. I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
A lot of people are shy about using that word.
Well, you have to advocate. I mean, I can say lobby, advocate.
Right. It's the same, though.
We bring it to them and show them that we're united in this cause, and this is something that we want you to support and make
Together,
it relatable.
your voice is louder.
That's right.
The wheel that squeaks gets the grease.
That's right. That's right. So we're a third.
How many more cliches can we use today?
We'll try to work a few more in. So we've got a third of that government agency, government funding. A third is reimbursable. So either insurance reimbursements or cash payment for clients, depending on, we do have sliding scales. A lot of folks think that a nonprofit is only for people that don't have the resources to obtain services, but we're not like that. We're open to anyone who has a disability. If you have insurance, if you don't, if you have a high deductible or
Say that again louder. A lot of people think that nonprofits are just for people who don't have, but that's not really the case. What you're doing is you're filling a void where the government has not been able to do what's needed for us to get from point A to point B.
We're taking it as a private sector, charge to fill those gaps, whatever they may be, and do it well and provide it at a level that people that aren't under-resourced would be able to acquire. We've had lots of people tell us, we moved to this area because of what you're doing. And when you're not 100% government funded, you do have that flexibility of delivering services in a unique way. So we're able to offer Spanish and dance and all these other kinds of things that might not be available in a setting that has to check all the boxes. And then the final answer to your question is we are about 40% we're funded by the community. So our philanthropy team is really strong. And we only have about 2 fundraisers a year, but we do a lot of work, one-on-one in environments like this where we're just talking about what our programs do for people, and people are feel the need to help us.
So you mentioned 2 fundraisers. You want to plug the 2 fundraisers?
Yeah, so
that's a good idea.
We mentioned that the 80th year is in 2026, so we will be having a gala. Typically, our fundraiser in the spring is a luncheon, but every 5 years we do something a little bit more formal. So March 7th, 2026, at the Aura will be our 80th anniversary gala. And then we have a golf tournament that will happen in November. It will focus on our veterans programming. It's the weekend of Veterans Day, so November 7th.
Hey, Sarasota, we're having a great time getting to know Jill Gass, VP of Philanthropy at Easterseals of Southwest Florida. If you'd like to get to know her a little bit better, stay tuned for rapid fire questions fueled by food and beer.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Jill Gass, and I'm the VP of Philanthropy at Easterseals Southwest Florida, and this is Rapid Fire.
10 random questions, 10 specific answers, nothing off limits. This is Rapid Fire, fueled by food and beer. Do you have a favorite musical artist?
Prince.
If animals could talk, which would be the rudest?
Cat.
That is rude. That is rude. Stop.
Do you have any hidden talents?
I'm a really good napper, but I'm also really good cooking. I'm a good cook.
Besides super chunk fudgy peanut butter ice cream, what's your favorite flavor?
Vanilla.
Did you ever name your car? And calling it a POS doesn't count.
I've never named it, but my mom always names hers. I can't think of what she names it now, but she's the namer, not me.
You're going to a Halloween party. What are you dressing up as?
I hate Halloween. I got married on Halloween, so I didn't have to dress up that year.
I'm the party pooper.
I would stay home.
Well, that sucks.
I hate Halloween.
Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
You have chosen wisely.
I know I can't, but do you think it's possible to fold a fitted sheet?
Yes, I'm actually pretty good at it.
What song do you play when you need to get pumped up?
Right now, Pink Pony Club.
After, of course, eating food and beer, where's the first place you would take visitors in Sarasota besides the beach?
I mean, my favorite restaurant is Indigenous, but you often can't get in there unless you make a reservation, so I would recommend that.
All right, let's discuss the Malcolm Family Autism Center of Excellence. It's a building that you guys are very proud of. You want to dive into the details for us?
Sure. So we started a capital campaign to build this building because wait lists are a challenge to all families that have disabilities. It's very frustrating to say, we have services, but we can't help you right now. So the building we should be starting construction on it this summer. We did have the formal groundbreaking ceremony, but it will expand our preschool program by 150 children, and it will expand our clinical education model for our academy-age children by about 50. So it will just be located in right there on the Sarasota-Manatee border where our main campus is. And it's about, like I said, 30,000 square feet, and we're really excited to bring it online.
How long does it take from the conception of this idea to breaking ground? What's that time frame look like?
So I would say that the idea of this building has been probably 10 years in the running. The idea of raising the money to do it has been 3 years. We're at 3 years right now of finding funds to bring together $12 million to do this project. So right now we also have a $500,000 match for anyone that would give money towards this campaign. This pledge is $500,000 to help us complete the funding for the program. So any donations given now, between now and the end of the year, will be matched.
And probably most importantly, you've already got the land.
Yes,
which is becoming hard to come by around
it's
here.
It's being built on our property, so yes.
Over by the airport?
Correct.
Yeah, I've been to the campus with our good mutual friend, John Berkey.
Okay. Yeah,
maybe
he's
once
a great
or
board
twice.
member.
He's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So good to hear you're up and running. So what does it mean? What is it going to mean when you do have this facility built? How is that going to move the needle in the context of the greater mission?
I think the largest or the biggest benefit to this is that it will be a place that other Easterseals or other communities can look at the model and see that it works, see how much it costs. They will have all of it that they could replicate it. And I think that's a huge advantage. We're also working with other universities to train the next generation of therapists, of teacher that are interested in disabilities. There's a whole center in the core of this building that will be a training center, and it will be specifically for the people that will help these families and children.
So it's fair to say, and one of the great things about the podcast is I'm allowed to say things that you're probably not.
Okay.
Right? It's fair to say that you'll be setting a standard in Florida for having this kind of purpose-built facility to meet these needs of the clients.
Hence the name Excellence.
Okay, yeah. Excellence.
Way to get risque. Wow.
I'm just saying that, you have to...
That's the hope. I mean, that's the hope.
As being part of an organization like yours, people are usually, they don't want to offend their peers, and they don't want to sound like they're doing something bigger than they are, but this sounds pretty darn big. Yeah. And it sounds like it's going to be something really special that we can hang our hat on as, one of the most charitable communities in America. So we're told.
Mm-hmm. Let's jump a little bit into you personally. How did you get involved with Easterseals?
So I kind of accidentally fell into nonprofit, as a lot of us do. I ended up moving to Florida about 25 years ago, and I was working for a corporate hospitality agency. And so what that meant is I did fancy parties around large sporting events, so Super Bowls, Final Fours, different things like that. And I'm from Minnesota, and the man that I was working for was from New Jersey, and he was moving his family to Lakewood Ranch. And he called me in November and said, do you want to move to Florida, which is in Minnesota? It's starting to get cold in November. And I moved in January. So that's how I got here. Fast forward a few years, he ended up selling the company after about 4 or 5 years. And I didn't want to, where he sold it was back in the Midwest, and I didn't want to move back. So I ended up getting a job at a nonprofit just because I needed a job. And it turned out I was good at it. And so that's how I started in nonprofit. As far as disability services and that health and human services, Easterseals brings together all my passions, which are education, healthcare, and just access in general. So I'm able to do that and benefit other families, and that just brings me joy.
So the hospitality events that you describe, I know some people who've worked in that. They're really almost like mini campaigns, right? Because you've got this sprint to the event, and then you've got the downtime, and then you're gearing up for the next sprint to the event. How did that experience kind of inform your ability to get these deliverables done for your nonprofit?
Well, a lot of, this town is wrought with galas and big fancy parties. And so a lot of that I was able to bring, and it's not something that stresses me out. A lot of people have challenges with planning these large-scale events, and that's something that I really like doing.
I'm glad you like doing it.
Yeah. As far as the campaign and kind of the fundraising, I love talking to people. I find people very interesting. Everybody has a story. I'm not used to actually talking about myself, so it's a little odd because I'm usually trying to get to know someone else. And that's how, with my work, I'm able to connect them to things that they're passionate about. And whether it be Easterseals or something else, I think that's a huge benefit that I have that freedom to do that.
So what are some of the venues around town that you typically hold the fundraisers at?
Well, when you're as large as our events, you're limited to hotels and kind of some of the other places. But Terry and Michael Klauber have been big fans of Easterseals for a long time. And so we've been at Michael's on East a lot. And we've recently moved to the Aura for our event because they're the exclusive caterer there. So, yeah.
But you're right. There's only a few venues that can hold a certain size, and Aura is probably the newest one.
Right. And it's affordable.
They do a nice job.
They do a really nice job. Yep.
All right, so if someone has like a bunch of cash in their pocket and it's burning a hole, what's the easiest way they can donate to your cause?
Sure. So the easiest way is the website. But if they have it in their pockets already, they can just give me a call or find me at Easterseals and drop it off. But the Campaign for Compassion is one of the drop downs in our How to Help Us. There's a donate button in the corner of the website, of course, that can do that. But I'm easily found if you want to reach out and speak to something specific.
Now, so for the regular donors, is there some kind of sense of community amongst the donors of Easterseals?
I think that's what's unique about Easterseals is you don't have to be $1 million philanthropist to make change, and so that's the great thing about being a donor who, if you want to give $25, if you want to give $25,000, you're treated the same and you have the same access of feeling good about what you did in contributing to the growth and development of our community.
The phrase that I like a lot that comes to mind when you say that is, when they're looking for people to get involved in the cause, they want time, talent, and treasure.
Correct.
So because of the nature of your mission, you guys have opportunities for people to give all and any of those.
Right. I always, so we have the ranch I mentioned down in Nokomis. I always say we have opportunities for volunteerism from baby snuggling to manure shoveling. It's all the same, right? So you have all the different things that you can do. And Again, you can visit our website or make a phone call. We do have humans that answer the phone when you call, which is nice. So you can just inquire about volunteer opportunities, fill out an application online, come in for a tour. Tour is the best way to really get a sense of what we do. 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, you can come on in and see us.
So if I'm struggling between a few different nonprofits to donate my money and time to, give me a pitch. Why Easterseals?
That's why I think you have to come see it. Okay. I think if it's something that you tangibly can see the benefit, and just hearing that we really accommodate each family specifically. If you're someone who supports education, we have education. If you support animals, we have animals. If you support senior citizens, we have that. We have all the different kind of lanes that traditional philanthropists do. We also have a really impressive art department. We have some creative art teachers who work with our clients to produce really high-end art. And they always are big contributors to all of our fundraisers. This last year, they made all of the vases on the tables, and people were fighting over them to get them. And it's really just finding someone's talents and really nurturing that. And I I think that's what I appreciate about Easterseals the most is if you want to play soccer, we find a place for you to play soccer. If you want to paint a portrait, you can do that. If you want to read or you want to do whatever, we're able to connect people to what their passions are.
So you're able to curate to their needs and
Correct.
wants. Yeah.
Correct.
So you mentioned that Easterseals has grown rapidly over the last 5 years. I think, what did you say, from 55 to 200 employees?
Correct.
That seems like a lot.
It's a lot.
How did that happen? Is there a story behind it? Was there a particular catalyst?
I think the catalyst was our CEO. Tom Waters is really a magnet for
Oh, yeah.
really grasping onto and really partnership. Partnership is really Easterseals' middle name in this town is that, we don't hire ballet teachers. We have a ballet company come in. We don't have yoga instructors. We have yoga teachers come in that have their own studios. Similar, that's how the art department got started. It was people who were passionate about art who wanted to bring it as an option. We have a photo club. We have all these different kind of groups that come in from the outside to make our programming more well-rounded. And again, providing those options to families, I think that's the biggest life changer is just having choices. It's not just peas or carrots. There's a whole platter of things that you can choose from and try, and maybe it works for you and maybe it doesn't. But Tom was really the reason that the program grew the way that it did. He is the ultimate collaborator. It's the reason I went to work there.
He's pretty well known in town.
He's very well known.
What I like about him is he doesn't just talk the talk and know a lot of people.
Correct.
He's also out there walking the walk. I used to see him on a pretty regular basis at that coffee shop on State Street.
Rise and Eyes, yeah.
Rise and Eyes. That the people who run it are people with varying different disabilities or.
Yeah.
So I would see him there all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
Yeah. A lot of the people who worked there were clients that come to Easterseals. So we do a lot of that kind of training. Employment opportunities is a big challenge for people with disabilities. So we do a lot of work with other, Anna Maria Oyster Bar is a good example. They are.
John Horn.
Yeah, that whole community will hire some of our clients who are interested in working. And
while we're on that topic, can you talk about how important it is for some of these folks to have a job? And what that does to them and what that does to their progress.
Right. So, I think just like you and I, we have pride in what we do. And if they have the capacity and the interest to work, we want to be able to connect them to somebody who will give them a chance. And so I think just development, just confidence alone is really what comes out of having proper employment.
When I did some work with Haven, that was the area that I focused on, and I don't think the layperson knows how important it is. I mean, that becomes their whole life.
Correct.
Right? And they get a lot of positive connections out of it and just great day-to-day experience out in the community. And it brings more visibility to the different types of people that we have in the community.
Right.
So I've always enjoyed seeing people out in the community working.
Yeah. A mother told me the other day that it's not hard raising an autistic child. It's hard having an autistic child in a community that isn't fit for them. And so that inclusivity is really important, and providing those employers who are interested in giving someone a chance that might be different from them. And we provide the supports. I mean, it really is like a fail-safe kind of opportunity. And the way we can all contribute is not staring in the grocery store. Like, everybody's got breakdowns sometimes, and you just got to move past your day, but everybody's trying their hardest. And I think we've lost a lot of the humanity in our life, and I think that that's something that when you walk into the building, you see people trying hard and wanting to do the best that they can, and all these other folks coming around to help support that. And that's a really nice feeling.
Being that we're in Sarasota, are you guys able to incorporate the beach or the ocean into any of your programs?
A lot of our adult clients will take day trips there. So we have some donors, of course, that have homes where it would be safer for them to be on a beach, or they're able to park and kind of go in and do those things. So they do experience the beach. We're actually right off of the bayfront. Whoever bought the property for Easterseals, they got us 1 block off the bay and 1 block off of 41. So Tom always says he's going to fire the realtor who bought that property. But we do take walks down to the water, and we're in the Whitfield community, and all of the neighbors really love having us there, and they comment regularly about seeing the babies in the baby buggies, and just folks going down and looking at the water and having scavenger hunts or whatever it is that they do. And we recently did purchase the motel that was on the corner of 41 and Braden Avenue, and brought that down. And we've partnered with Castle, which is Community Assisted Supportive Living, and we will be building some housing for folks with disabilities in the near future.
How did you? I'm just curious. I'm familiar with Castle. How did you find them? Did they find you?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Scott Eller's been a big, passionate supporter of ours, and he's a change maker. He and Tom are both visionary people, and they had this idea for a long time, and finally that piece of property came up, and they didn't want it to slip through their hands.
So you moved here from Minnesota. You want to go into some of the things you like more about Sarasota than Minnesota?
Obviously, I love beaches, and I love sunsets, even though Minnesota has both. And
What part of Minnesota?
The Twin
The cold
Cities.
part.
The cold
The cold
part.
part.
Yeah, the part that had winter for 9 months.
Well, Trey and I like to joke every time I ask someone that he says that I always say I've been there. Which is
Have
not,
you been there?
That depends what part of Minnesota. That's why I asked.
The Twin
Yeah.
Cities.
Twin Cities.
Okay, yeah, I've been to the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
It's an interesting place with that big river kind of there,
The Mississippi.
Yeah, it's a different vibe.
You peel back a few layers, you see how full of shit it is, right?
I mean, we don't have rivers like that on the
No,
East Coast.
no, you
They
don't.
just don't exist. So when I first saw it, I was just like, okay, now I see what people are talking about.
I actually, I'm not a huge fan of going to the beach here anymore, just because I don't like the parking situation. But I travel
You don't like
to
the
see
parking
beaches.
situation? It's worse other places,
I
and
know.
you have to pay.
Well, I also don't like the sand in my car. I'm
Okay, that I
allergic
get.
to it, so I don't like. I do like to see it. I'm a big fan of the Bayfront. I do love Anna Maria Island.
So you treat the beach like somebody who has a pool treats it. It's nice to look at, but you don't use it that much.
Correct. I use it when my mom comes down and she forces me to go to the beach.
Yeah, well, everybody from somewhere else is always trying to go to the beach.
Yes.
I get that.
Yes.
That leads us to one of our favorite questions. Terminator Law. And Trey Martell want to know.
I want to know too.
And Felipe may already know. How do you feel about roundabouts? Do you love them or do you hate them? And why?
I personally don't mind them because we all need a little sense of adventure in our lives, right? So we bring together everybody's bad drivers from other states.
What kind of driver are you? Aggressive?
Oh, no, I think I'm
defensive?
an old lady driver these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
10 and 2?
I'm sure the insurance company loves to hear that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the answer is adventurous. That's what you're going with.
Sometimes, yes. I would say it's adventurous to, yeah. Yeah. I would
Don't
say
stare at
that.
it.
I was just thinking of myself right there, and I'm like, oh.
Literally every single person who comes on stares at it, and it's
Yeah.
just a.
It is kind of mesmerizing.
Every week I stare at it.
Yeah,
Get
I started
lost.
too. I can't help it. So, but the reason we asked the roundabout.
It's a
question-
proxy. It's a proxy.
There we go. For the way Sarasota's changed. How long have you been here?
25 years.
25.
Oh, so you've seen it all.
I've seen a little bit, yep.
So you must have, some opinion on how it's changed and how it's grown and
Yeah.
what we've gained, what we've lost.
What do you think of the growth? Too much?
Yeah, what do
too
you
little?
think?
More?
Growth is inevitable. For my line of work, it's good. You bring in fresh meat all the time.
There we go.
And more roofs. And
more
more
roofs.
So, actually, while we're on that topic, I'm
Yeah.
curious what your title means. You said you have other fundraisers
Mm-hmm.
who work there. So, are you explicitly a fundraiser, or are you like an administrator for the fundraising activities?
A little bit of both.
Like,
Do
how
a
does
lot
that
of business
work?
development, different
Okay.
things. I mean, the employers that we meet that are willing to employ our clients are through relationships of development, and people in my team kind of nurture,
Okay.
introduce them to the idea. So it's not just cash. It's not just that transaction. It has a lot to do with just the relationship building, and that's really where my team works.
Where did you start when you first moved to Easterseals? Like, where was your starting position, and how did you get from there to?
I was
this?
hired as the vice president of Philanthropy.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
went right to the top.
Right. Well, not at this organization, but not easily there. Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
The reason I ask these questions is a lot of the people who watch are people who, they live in this community, they love it, but, we don't have a lot of employment opportunities versus a huge city. Mm-hmm. And the ones we do have generally tend to be in specific verticals.
Yep. One
One of the most important ones is the philanthropic space.
Mm-hmm.
So any insights that we can give folks on how to stay in Sarasota and to progress through these types of careers is something we can do that's valuable.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think
this
with-
is stuff that's not discussed all the time.
I think the nonprofit sector is one of the most competitive in our region because there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got into it, like I said, it was by accident, but it was as a just a development officer. I didn't know what that meant really. They hired me mostly to do events. And then what I learned over the time is that it's about making relationships, and then it's about learning to write grants. And so if you're coming up in the philanthropy space, you do have to know how to do it all. Because in development roles, like in corporate America, like in the marketing department, you can't just be a copywriter anymore. You have to be able to do lots of different things. And we all have different skills and things that we like to do more than we like to do other. And so then hiring is important, so that maybe you're weak in one area, so you hire somebody that's better at that than you are. And I also think that having different people on your team is important, so you're not looking at like clones of yourself. And again, that's just all in hiring and the strategy of you may respond to me, but you may not, those kinds of things.
It's funny, we're talking about this. One of the gentlemen we had on the podcast recently pioneered software that allows big companies to personality test and then use those results to create teams that work. You know, so that's something we've talked about before on the podcast.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Any closing thoughts or things you want to plug? Do you want to plug any of the companies that are giving that employment support to Easterseals?
Who's pledging that match for $500,000?
I think you are.
No.
You had a busy year. I know you haven't.
I always buy from the guests.
He does. That is true.
So
any, you want to plug any of the employers? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Anna Maria Oyster Bar is a big one. The
good.
Zenith Company is one. Sun Hydraulics is one.
They make the little things in the genies.
Yeah.
Shout out to Steve Santiago.
Does he make those?
He wears Sun Hydraulics.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody there makes them, right? Okay.
Yeah, those are a few.
Cool. Well, great to hear. We always close the podcast with the same question.
Okay.
You've been on Sarasota SpeaX. You see what we do here. Thank you, by the way. Really
Thank you.
appreciate what you do in the community. Who do you know, who we may not know, who Sarasota needs to know? Who can we invite on Sarasota SpeaX next?
One of the most interesting people that I've met in the last few years is Dr. Dean Hadamaki. I don't know if you know this name. He's a local physician. He's a native of Sarasota. His family's very interesting. Because he's a doctor and he's had just tons of experiences. He went to UF. He's part of that community. But he's just fascinating. You never know what you're going to hear about the day you have lunch with him. And that's what
How did you get to know him?
He's a donor of Easterseals.
Okay.
He's also the advisor for the Flanzer Trust, which is a
Flanzer Trust?
Yeah, the Louis and Gloria Flanzer Philanthropic Trust.
That's
And
one we haven't heard about on the podcast
so
yet.
what happens there, there's a few charities that have been selected. Easterseals is one of them. If you go to their website and you make a donation, they match it. The trust matches it. So Gloria and Louis were longtime residents of this area, and they lived out on Longboat Key, and Dr. Hadamaki was their doctor. And he became one of their advisors when they passed. And she never had children, so they give their money away. And it's an incredible story. That's one of his lanes that he can talk about.
Okay.
Another person that I think is really interesting, my husband's a football coach, and he coached football with Coach Meckley, who is a institution in this area and actually part of the High School Football Hall of Fame. He's from Bradenton, and Paul Meckley is his name. He's just influenced so many young men in this region, those that went pro and, those that work in an insurance company. So all different kinds, and I think he's just an interesting man.
Okay. Well, those are great endorsements. You gave us a pick, and then you gave us a great bonus. So
there you go.
We appreciate that. Jill, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being on Sarasota SpeaX and telling the world about Easterseals, Southwest Florida.
Will do. Thank you.